Okay. Get a turnaround here someday in the near future.
Mr. Tom.
Well, Tom. Were we supposed to sign in or just visitors?
Yeah. Oh, we have a quorum.
All right.
Good.
Hold on.
And it's just 4 o'clock.
Just 4 o'clock. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Bennington County Solid Waste Alliance, October 6th. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I make a motion to approve them.
Second.
All right, any changes, additions, corrections, anything anyone saw? Okay, everyone in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right.
There's only a bunch of eyes here.
That's right. No mouths or noses anymore.
Can you all hear us on the screen there? Can you hear us, Stu?
Nick, you're muted.
I hear you, Mike.
Great.
I was muted. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that'll go right
Oh, I
in.
see. Okay, I wasn't sure
No,
that you were muted.
Okay. Well, we just did the minutes, so hope you're okay with that. So I sent you a rather lengthy, well, it's not too long, only 7 pages, budget memo. And the budget is pretty close to what it was last year because we have sort of two things, the amount that you're paying BCRC for all the great work that Paula does and mediocre work that I do. And
The one you retired.
So that's totally legitimate.
Yeah.
a lot of voices there.
You got it.
You still on?
Yep, we're on.
Okay.
He muted himself.
So the only things that are
Yeah, right, yeah.
who's
Yeah,
that?
that's good.
So basically the budget for BCRC's work is a little bit over $209,000. And then we have $4,000.
I think it's Stu.
No, it's good.
Are we being hacked?
No.
Okay. And $4,000 for the asphalt shingle, and then for this year or for next year, well, this year I would be billing you roughly $60,000 for the household hazardous waste event, and I'll be doing the same thing next fiscal year, which is what this budget is for. Now, Stu and I have had some conversations about the asphalt shingle project, and I met with Casella about that, and it may be that it's not going to cost us anything, but we'll see. There's sort of two things going on. One is that Casella is willing to give us some space, and then if we hire a company in Massachusetts to take the shingles and process them, they would drop off a container. So we wouldn't have to buy a container or create a pad. But the other thing is that the Vermont Department of Health, I don't know if I told you this before, Vermont Department of Health has determined that these shingles, they have create toxic dust if you put them on the roads. Don't look at me like that. I didn't make this up. And therefore, they're not sure they want to allow towns to use this stuff on their roads. And so I've talked to A&R and I've said, well, when are you guys going to make a decision? Because we're supposed to put this in place in next July. And they said they will make a decision soon if they can't get past, if it can't be marketed in Vermont, then they don't feel like they should require us to recycle it. In other words, if we have to recycle it in Massachusetts, it might have to be recycled in Massachusetts because that's where it gets, but if it can't be used in Vermont, then it's kind of pointless. Right now, no one is actually recycling them in Vermont. They're like the one place was doing it was Myers up in Wilson, and he's sending it to Massachusetts too. So that's the scoop. There's a little more.
Yeah, and Mike, if I could jump in there just to strongly second the idea that if in fact we must do this, then I would like to approach it the way you've outlined. The town of Bennington does not wish to build an asphalt shingle facility and utilize grant funds and then have to turn around and bill every other community. That's just more work than we really need to do for the $6,000 or whatever it's going to cost. And so we need to find an alternate solution.
Okay, well,
It requires
don't
it.
get rid of the grant yet, just in case.
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting.
I'll bill people for you.
I'm sitting on it, but I just want everyone to know that
Okay,
very reluctant grantee.
I like to send out bills.
Do you have any idea? I mean, asphalt shingles have asphalt, which goes into roads, stone, which goes into roads, and paper. That I don't understand what the.
I don't even have.
Fiberglass. Oh, fiberglass?
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
what do you think it is?
Yeah, I guess you're right. There are fiberglass.
When you start smashing that stuff up in it, it's hard fiberglass, not like your stuff you see in installation.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, I mean, it's got a little flexibility, but when you start smashing that up, and that's where your problems. And then you get silicate,
Yeah.
silicate dust, and that's where you're going to get it right there.
Okay, thank you.
I've nailed a couple on.
Okay, that's interesting.
So
So that wouldn't just come off of a road, that kind of material. It's a-
Well, yeah, I mean, if you keep running over it and there's fiberglass in there, you're going to get dust. It's going to go up in the dust. People are going
It's
to
the
ingest it.
fiberglass dust.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they're concerned with, and I've always thought that too, to tell you the truth.
Well, what they wanted to have A&R do is set up a whole bunch of air quality monitoring stations and do a study, and A&R just went,
Oh, come on.
oh, we get exactly, yeah.
Really?
Because they're worried about affecting the neighboring properties, and in some of these cases, there probably would be any neighboring properties for the bill, rural roads. But if I have a feeling this is going to go down the tubes,
I hope so.
but we'll see.
For their unfunded mandate. Stu knows all about unfunded mandates, don't you?
Yeah, we've kind of had enough unfunded mandates, but they don't stop coming.
No, they don't.
So otherwise, I think I'm glad to go into any detail you want, but I think the one you might be most interested in is table 4, where I laid out the share that each of you would pay for the BCRC work and the asphalt shingle work and the household hazardous waste facility allocated by town based on the 2020 population. So some towns like Pownell and Bennington went down, and other towns like Sunderland and Manchester went up, but that doesn't dramatically change these numbers too much. So there's a new cost sharing thing there. If anybody has any question, I'm glad to go over this in more detail, but if you had a chance to read and you have any questions, that might be a better way to go.
I do. On this thing with the HHW facility match costs, and then that choice, is that a wash? Or is that like $14,000 towards $15,000 towards town? Or is that included right there, the last 2 columns on table 4, page 7? That,
Is it a wash?
yeah, I mean, with those 72, 77.40 per panel.
It's Manchester.
No, it's
Finals
Manchester.
That's your Manchester, you're up a line.
Ours is 50, but they're all identical.
They're identical because the first column is 2021 to 2022, which is this
Okay.
fiscal year, which we already adopted that budget. We're just showing, so it's not going to change from one year to the next because I'm using the same.
But those
I'm using
those
the-
numbers aren't incorporated in our other numbers there, correct? They're
Which
not
other
in
numbers?
addition to this cost over here, the 21-22 number here, like for the panel is 20,688 and Fort Bennington's got 92,446.
Yeah, so those,
So that's included in that, those numbers.
no, those are added.
Those are added to it, okay. So I
But remember, now the reason I'm doing this, or the reason I'm doing it this way, is this will be reimbursed on a 60% basis. But BCRC is going to be overseeing the construction, so we need the money. We don't have money to spend. But we have to get your money to spend it and then get reimbursed. You know what I'm getting at? Because it's a reimbursement program. Now, as soon as we get reimbursed, then the next building will be less. But we haven't even started this yet, so. I'm just being cautious about how much, because BCRC is in a bank.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, what was the percentage for reimbursement again? I forget.
60%,
What was that?
60%, 60%.
Oh, okay, thanks.
And that will come as we build them. There's
Yep.
be over time, and it wouldn't be like all at the end or anything like that. But still, if we, buy something, we need to have money to pay for it, and then we'll send in the bill and get it reimbursed. Then I can either reduce your billing or send you money.
Okay.
So, anybody want to adopt the budget?
Not really.
I know. But
Gotta do
Okay, good. You're making a motion to adopt the budget?
it. Sure.
we are still going to go forward with this household legislation. Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, just not to convince you, but I will try to set this up, but I went and visited the Wyndham facility. And they feel like it's really saving them money.
Where's that one?
in Brattleboro. We can set up a visit sometime. Okay, so what did we do? Did somebody do something?
You made a
I
motion. to
make a
adopt?
motion to accept it as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of accepting the budget as written, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, you're a rich man now, Michael.
So, you have a report that we want to go over too. So the other long drawn out document I sent you is a summary of the expenses from this past fiscal year up to June 30th. And in which case we were again under budget, primarily for two reasons. One is we carried over money from last fiscal year to this fiscal year. In fact, this wasn't exactly Stu's idea, but it was kind of Stu's idea because we had to do an additional household hazardous waste event in Reedsboro. Now, we hadn't budgeted for that because that wasn't a requirement when we budgeted last year. But anyway, we carried over that money, and that because you weren't going to spend it all last year, we were still under budget last year, and that allowed us to stay under budget this year. That and the quite a bit of grants that we get. Yeah, we got over $50,000 in grants from A&R and from Ag and Markets. So, by the way, the A&R grants will continue when we have a permanent facility as well. Now, the A&R grant is going to vanish because it's, we got a total of $16,000 to run us till 2023, I believe, for them to reimburse us on pesticides. However, we're about $300 away from the 16,000 in measurement on. If you had a chance to talk to your legislator and they can tell them to increase the fees that people pay into that fund, we could probably get some more money, but ag market doesn't have any more. So we managed to stay under budget. And we developed a new plan, as you probably remember. That we not only did, but also amended. There's a table 3, if you're curious. This is the amount of materials that were collected at the transfer stations in our area. As you can see, for some reason, everything is going up, including municipal solid waste or trash, C&D, recyclables, tires, and food scrap. So people, the population is going down or staying around the same, but people are creating more stuff.
And maybe they're not throwing it on our back roads.
Yeah,
Sunderland's population went up from 989 to over 1,000.
yeah. So that's where it all came from. And our household hazardous waste numbers have increased too. We've gone from, of course, we did have an extra event, so that raised it, but we also had more people in Bennington than the year before, and more people in Dorset than the year before. And this year in Dorset, we had 250 relative households. So that seems to keep going up. Though interestingly enough, the bill for Dorset this year was less than last year. So more people, less stuff, for whatever reason.
How many household hazardous waste events are we required to have a year?
We're supposed to have, just the way it works, it's kind of funny. We're supposed to have one for the northern part of our area, which is when we do indoor.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to have one in the southern part of the area.
Yeah.
And then we have to have one if anyone is beyond 20 road miles. And Stanford and Searsburg are both beyond 20 road miles. There's no location we could find, or I could think of, where you would be within 20 road miles and I would still be able to do just 2 events. So that's why the third one. Now, if we have this facility, we won't have to do anything.
Right.
But that can be more than 20 miles to get to that facility.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. It's as long as,
There's one in the town.
because since it'd be open 2 days a week,
Right, yeah.
just, you know, I mean, Nancy wants to bring her arsenic and stuff over and she's shopping, she's going to the public house, you know, it's a lot less hassle than driving on a Saturday to sit in line for an hour. Get rid of her stuff. So presumably that'll work. And I think there's efforts to make this work as opposed to make it difficult.
Beautiful. Like it.
And it seems to be working in Wyndham. Wyndham actually does something else we might want to think about too, is everybody comes by appointment. It's just like, it's not a free for all. So they have like 10 or 15 cars a day. Sign up for 1 o'clock, you're at 1, get rid of your stuff. And next person comes at 1:30, keeps it even. But we'll figure that out when we get there. So what else? We sold a boatload of compost bins and soil savers and all kinds of things like that. We're still working on, with the Vermont Product Stewardship Council, on 2 pieces of legislation. We talked about this for the manufacturers to pay for the disposal of household hazardous waste. And that's sort of moving slowly. But there's also movement afoot to require manufacturers to pay for the disposal of packaging. So if someone sends something in a box, they've got to pay for the disposal of the box. Somebody sends something in a plastic bag, they have to figure out how to dispose of the plastic bag. It's kind of tricky because you can get in, this will make your hair fall out, is what is a package? And so there's limits of how far, a chewing gum wrapper, we're not going to do that, right? So it's But it should help a lot because it would basically mean that the haulers would get reimbursed for collecting and disposing of this stuff to be recycled. It's kind of like the electronic waste, fluorescent bulbs, all that kind of stuff. Whoever makes it pays to get rid of it. But it's a little more complicated because we know what a bulb is. We don't always know what package is. And same thing with household hazardous waste. We know what a bulb is, but there's a lot of different things out there that are hazardous materials. So it's just harder to do. The asphalt shingle facility.
That line, the last sentence in that paragraph, the facility is to open July 1st, 2021.
Well, no,
Just a typo?
yeah, 2022.
Yeah.
It was originally 2021, and they switched it. So, yeah, we still have some time. And then Paula has done a boatload of programs working with schools and businesses. And I think if you go up a page, you'll see that she's been out. In fact, you went to what, maybe 10 or 12 different schools you work with one way or the other.
Yeah, either through communication, not so much on site just because of COVID. Other than the pail drop off we did last year through the grant, which you were helping us with, but a lot of the just, somebody would call us and say, hey, we got a problem, and that's what we worked on, did some video conferencing when necessary. I did show up sometime, and then I kind of did some go arounds and like talk to the Abbey group about ways to try to return to reusable serveware if they serve all the cafeterias or a lot of them in the school districts here, and start a conversation to try to get them back into that, help them understand materials that they're supplying, what is compostable truly, what isn't. So we're trying to look at different ways at hitting the waste streams beyond just the schools and other areas. Same thing with business outreach. It's, a challenge, fits and starts. This past quarter, I've been primarily working on the website, almost exclusively other than events. And that should be winding down here.
Great.
Yeah.
She's also has a very active presence on Facebook, and we have Instagram.
Mhm.
So we're social mediating.
Yeah, and doing the farmers market in Arlington. I did the last one that they had. I'm also going to be at the one this Saturday at the Bennington farmers market. And then again on the 30th, just hosting a booth to help understand what concerns people have about recycling, answer the questions. Very favorably received, and I seem to get a lot of high interest and create some buzz. People want to talk about it afterwards, which is good.
Do you have any questions or thoughts? Oh, and she helped Jasper with her signs.
Oh, yeah.
Are they up yet, Dave?
No, the signs aren't up yet. We actually just found out we can't really build the shed we wanted either,
Why?
because apparently they're going to declare it a municipal building, and it has to have architectural design, stamped architectural plans to build,
Oh, no.
because it's technically in a municipal office. So we're on to plan B, C or D. I'm not quite sure which one yet. So we're going to have a temporary trailer so that they keep nice and toasty during the winter, and we'll see what the spring brings. But my costs went up fourfold as we went through the process of this. And once the state said I have to have stamped architectural plans, that's a whole new ball game. So we'll see what we're going to do with that.
What is he building?
You want to have a shed for, what, you want to have?
Well, we can't call it a shed because people occupy it, so it's an office.
Oh,
Oh,
So, yeah. I don't even know what to do with it. I just found this out like 3 weeks ago when we were designing the new ramps for it. And it's like, well, okay, shelve that for a few months because that is going to take a whole different approach. It's really unfortunate, but I don't know what we're going to do. But we'll keep a roof over their heads one way or the other.
Are you able to get the signs up in the interim, though, to get them doing?
Yeah,
that?
because as soon as we get a chance, we're just gonna pot those in cement in buckets so we can move them around. And then whenever we resolve this other issue, we'll have them permanently placed. But for now, it'll work out that we can move them around anyway.
Good.
I'm done.
You're done. Okay, all hauler registrations are in,
We still have Paula's recycling bin.
Yes, so I have a little presentation here. We're going to do a bit of a PowerPoint to just talk about what some of the things I've been learning in my scope of my work over the last couple of years as it pertains to public spaces and events. So this is kind of, I'm going to do a quick refresher of Act 148 and talk about how it affects public spaces, which as towns we're all supposed to facilitate the management of. So if you look at that, Act 148 was put into place back in 2012, and it's requiring a number of different it encompasses a lot of different requirements, but specifically requires recycling in all public spaces. And that includes for every trash bin, there must be a recycling bin alongside it or within close proximity. Public spaces, including city streets, parks, municipal offices, schools, and others are considered included. Bathrooms are exempt. A phased-in approach of the food scrap ban began in 2014, affecting Vermont's largest generators, and now quietly, while we're all dealing with COVID, the food scrap ban went into effect on July 1st last year, requiring all Vermonters to divert their food scraps from the trash, and this includes collection in public spaces. Next slide. Okay, thanks. What I'm going to show you here is just some observations I've made at different towns around the Alliance. These are just pictures of different public spaces and their collection bins. I'm not casting dispersions. I'm just making observations and kind of like what is around and how we manage our facilities, and then what we can do to optimize the collection and keep the contamination rates down while following Vermont's laws. So as you see here on the left, this is at Applejack Stadium at the base where you walk into the stands. And East Arlington Park, this is a collection bin for bottles and cans that's put together by the Boy Scouts. And then there's another bin next door, not quite sure if that's food scraps or just trash. Howard Park has both waste and recycling, and well identified and color coded under a pavilion in close proximity to each other. So they can collect waste and recycling, but there are no food scraps currently. And this next one is, I just got a collection because there was a lot of blue bins at Willow Park. I wasn't sure they outnumbered the trash bins at the time. The picture in the middle was somewhat concerning because it's placed beneath a dog waste or pet waste bag dispenser, which, you know, is going to just invite all kinds of contamination. I see one of the bins is labeled as recycling. The one on the far left, I assume, is trash at this point. So what we look at is ways to create a consistent system requires the presence of both single stream recycling, trash, and food scrap collection bins. Also incorporate commonly accepted colors for bins: blue for recycling, black for trash, green for food scraps. I mention this because you may go into other parts of the country and see a different configuration, but that's what is commonly done in the Northeast and generally accepted in Vermont. That's what they use. So if you go to other larger park spaces or public events, you'll see the black is trash, green is food scraps, and blue is recycling. You want to have good engaged signing to illustrate what materials are accepted in each bin so that people are well educated and keep the contamination down. And at the same time, you need to set the standard for the public use through permit applications, your contracts, your facility use rules that you have, and any municipal bylaws that are set up when folks contact your offices to secure these event spaces. I'm showing you these are kind of like Cadillac brand bins, but they're successful for a number of reasons. They're close together rather than spread out in a location. They are signed properly with labeling. Everyone understands that it says recycling, organics and waste, and it also is color coded properly for Vermont. And in addition, on the left, you see one here. This trio actually has illustrations for these types of items that are supposed to be put in that bin. These are good for, but not necessarily required by any means. The items on the right are actually made by a company out of Brattleboro that just specializes in waste bins. BCSWA, I think is what it's called. But there's no determination of how you're supposed to do this. So you can do color coded, spray painted 55-gallon drums and, you know, put some kind of outline stenciling of what is supposed to go on there. If you want to do it on the cheap, it doesn't really matter. These are just suggestions to just try to re-emphasize good, consistent labeling and symbols for people to understand.
Where's the one that was on the left?
The one on the left actually is just in a municipal park in some city. I just pulled that off the internet.
Okay.
This actually, the one on the right is from the county. Now, these are through my travels during events in public spaces. The one on the left, I photographed back on the 18th of September on School Street in Bennington. This is the food truck festival, well-attended event. All American Waste was good to be a sponsor, and they provided bins for the event. The unfortunate thing was, you can see here, they're all brown, and which is great if you're collecting trash, but they had little hot pink signs on the top. You can't see it there because they're pretty small. They're about 5 by 6 that labeled what was supposed to go in each. I did not, this was the first thing in the morning when they first started, and I just lifted the lid and you could see there was already contamination. Recycle here is nice, but it doesn't tell you what you're recycling. So we're not sure what's going on there. The one on the right is from the Green Mountain Bluegrass Festival from 2019. And they do list all the items that are supposed to go in a particular bin. These carts are provided by Casella, as you can see. And one of the unique things that they do, I shouldn't say unique, but unique because we don't see it a lot around here, is they have a waste team that comes around every 2 hours and changes out these bins. They bring in a flatbed trailer, literally, and swaps out the things. So everything stays clean. They try to get consistent labeling so everybody knows blue is recycling, green is food scraps, and black trash. Sometimes that's really well adhered to, other times not. Next slide, please. Here's another example. These are temporary bins that are provided by trash haulers again, or in this case on the left side, these also may be provided, in this case, this is Chittenden County Solid Waste District. They've got a great size budget and they can afford to loan these out to event planners, but they also provide signing with little frames there that help people understand what goes in there. They also are successful because they get teams of volunteers that show up at these events in exchange for festival admission. They volunteer a couple hours of their time and help guide participants in putting the trash in the right bin. On the right-hand side, this is nowhere near us. This is actually large-scale event. This is the Folklife Festival out in Seattle. But I showed it because it is a heavily attended event. Thousands upon thousands of people come to this thing. And this was the first day of the event. So they had literally just set up and they were getting ready to open. So I took a picture of it because they too have large trucks that are just routinely going around changing everything out, and big displays with very detailed item listings of what goes in. And again, consistent green, black, and blue, both signing, bins, so that everybody understands what goes in there. Next one, thank you. Now, there's certain things you can do to reduce contamination. Volunteers reduce contamination. This is Garlic Fest from 2019. They have historically used green teams, which are volunteers that work under their trash tents that they have. And these are 3 or 4 locations around the whole festival in which they guide the participants, the attendees who come with their trash, and where everything goes. But they also set the standard for the vendors about what goes in what can be dispensed so that they're not getting a lot of stuff that just ends up as trash. They encourage people to use compostable materials when necessary, or the items that easily recycle. Next one, thank you. Messaging also reduces contamination. Now, I don't want to confuse you by throwing a yellow bin in here, but it had a great message I couldn't ignore. This is actually from a municipal location in Australia, major urban area. But it does send a message and it gets people to think about it. Bins don't sort recycling, you do. Help us reach zero waste goal. Take a moment to sort your items. You know, obviously you can't have people standing over and telling people how to recycle, but this is a good image that helps people get the point. I designed these signs to help people identify the proper sorting to be done in Vermont, and goes along the guidelines of what most haulers use as their acceptable materials. I send these out to event planners and businesses that do takeout or self-serve, you know, where they bust their own tables, where consumers are going to put their items into sorting. And this is helpful. We're going to make this available on our new website, along with a lot of other support materials, so people can do correct event planning strategies. This is backed up by Vermont's symbols, food scraps, recycling, trash. These are downloadable from Vermont's website, along with other materials that they have to support sorting at either events or in municipal facilities. So what else is here? This is a little bit wonky, but it's a set of standards for public use, of which this verbiage I emailed to you all yesterday, which breaks down sample verbiage you can use in either contracts or permit use, whatever guidelines you want to set, use it as part of a makeup for bylaws that are used for municipal guidelines. The point is that you're trying to make sure that you have set the standard for the public to understand how they are supposed to manage their waste if they're going to use your facilities in the event of event or a gathering of some kind in which trash is going to be generated. It's important that they understand that the trash that's generated is going to get picked up properly, is actually compostable if they're going to collect compostable serveware, because that's getting to be, as a side note, a more complicated issue, because there's a lot of imitation compostable material out there that's being marketed as compostable, or worse yet, biodegradable, that doesn't break down in composting, or has a lot of PFAS materials as part of the component to make the serveware non-penetratable by liquid. So this is important to help understand that. As I said, this is stuff you can just decide how you want to put it in your rules and regulations for permit issuance. It's important to understand that just the consistency beyond all this is what you want to keep in mind. I threw it out a lot at you, but I'm happy to answer questions. And if your town decides to get together and put some systems in place and you want to get some ideas, I can also help meet with facilities people to help design systems that work as well. Crickets, okay.
Very nice.
Nice, I like the pictures of the recycling bins.
Oh, good. Well, I tried to be,
Samples.
yeah, that was the idea, to help drive a point home.
Yeah,
Well, I tried to drive the point in, they had a town picnic last Saturday. And I sent emails to everybody officials in town, because they sent one to me, and but nobody contacted me about anything.
Mhm.
And I'm really disappointed. You know, and the one guy came up, and his wife was on the rec board and stuff, and involved with that. I said, John, I said, talk about this. I said, well, I got things here they can take, they can use this stuff, you know. It's not as official as that, but it certainly would have been a lot better than
Yeah.
what I'm sure they did.
Right.
I'm sure they just tossed everything in a bag, and I'll probably see it, maybe I've seen it today or next Saturday or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how successful the venue was, but it was down at the skate park stuff they built. So, but they just ignored me. Not real happy about it. You know? So this is going to go to the select board, and I'm going to have some of these things.
Yeah, I can also send the PowerPoint presentation to you too, if they
Yeah,
want it. Images, and you
if
can
you
dice
would-
it up, whatever you want to do with it.
If you would, Paul, I
Mhm.
greatly appreciate
Sure.
that, because
Send it to all.
Yeah, I'll send it to everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a good point of reference for the
Oh,
select boards to
wonderful.
kind of get their head around what it is that they need to do.
it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, I can do a lot with this. You know, and I think that some of the other signage and stuff that we have and so forth is a lot better now. Casellas did give me all new organic things 2 weeks ago.
Good,
We don't, yeah, they're all new, they're all just marked, there's all embossed and everything, on it, you
Mhm.
know.
good.
So they're really a lot nicer than what we had, but they're much smaller. And I built the shed to accommodate for the big ones.
Mhm.
I got 5 little ones. It's really a pain in the ass. It's, you know, because there's times I fill up 4 of the big ones. That takes more than 5 of these little ones, I
Mhm.
guarantee you.
Hmm.
So I hope I'm not gonna get into trouble with it, you know, down the road.
Well, one of the problem, they can't lift them, lift the other ones. That was a problem with cams.
Too much heavy weight, yeah.
You know, they were, I was at the the medical center and they weren't full because they couldn't lift them if they were full, but they were charging the hospital as if they were full. So, there were 64
Hard to
gallons.
pull, trust me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, except we might have 2.5, 3, or
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
4. But there was, you know, what we have, we're on one level, so they just wheel it right out of the shed. And under the machine, the truck, and they just whoop,
Yep.
dump it, rinse it out, dump it again,
Oh, good.
and put it back. You know, it's really pretty slick, and it doesn't take them very long to do this. You know, and now that we paved the place, we won't have any excuse in the winter not to come in.
Mhm.
So, because sometimes he was messing with us, I said, can't do that. You
Yeah.
know, it's been Wednesday, you're almost filled up to start. Not a good thing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna eliminate that too. But you know, that's a very nice presentation, Paul.
Thank you.
Very, very nice.
You know, when Paul worked with Shasberry, they decided they were not gonna take compostable cups and stuff because people can't figure it out. And if there's, I learned recently that it doesn't really matter how much contamination, the hauler can decide it's too contaminated, we're send it to the landfill. So too many weird paper plates and plastic stuff, and if people think it's all compostable. Sometimes it's better to just say, fine, put that in the trash and we'll deal with the food scraps.
Yeah, people are bringing the biodegradable, but I didn't realize, and I should have, about the certified.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
biodegradable.
gotta be
And I'm
BPI.
gonna have to make sure that I tell the people to come with the bags and so forth, that they have to be that. But then some people just sort of white
Yeah,
plastic
Casella-
bags in, and you know they're not. There's-
Casella does require it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a growing number of companies right now that'll say certified compostable for commercial applications, meaning it will break down in the time frame and recipe mix they anticipate as handled by a municipal waste facility. But that still doesn't mean it's BPI certified, and it usually is the ones that contain the PFAS
Right.
chemicals that those are forever, they never break down. So.
Yeah, we'll have to do something.
In some cases, it's also, it may be that some of those kind of materials can't go to an anaerobic digester. And if for some reason Casella was sending it to a digester as opposed to their Bennington transfer station, because now there are more digesters being built in the state, including one in Middlebury. That might create a problem. I've only recently found out about that, but they don't digest.
No, it used to go to Bennington, but I don't know where.
They probably do, but things are gonna, it's gonna be wherever you can shift it.
Yeah.
So where does Casella take their food scraps?
Bennington. So,
Then
but they may also take some stuff to Lubu up in Middlebury where they compost. There's also another firm, AgriCycle, that took over Grow Compost. And they run digesters and composters, but they also take stuff to Maine for digesting. So I guess what I'm getting at is you just never know where something's going to go. So it's something that, or whether somebody will decide to create a digester at the Bennington transfer station, if anything along with that, and get some energy.
That'd be great.
Okay. I sent you out a bunch of materials on hauler registration. Register your haulers, please. Let me know who you register so we can keep our list and our website and all up to date.
I sent 3 letters to that All American, they don't respond to anything.
I'll try. I'll give them a call.
Yeah, I mean, I've some, I think on Pleasant Street or something like that, it's the only address. I have received that.
So they're calling in town.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I saw the guy one time, I was interested in him, you know, picking up my garbage, so, oh, he was really helpful. But, you know, they're not registered, their trucks aren't registered, you know.
They are with the state.
Right, well, they aren't with Powell.
All right, public comment? No way. Next meeting is when?
When would you like to have? We probably, the holidays are coming. So, well,
It's so fast.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I just survived summer and now we're looking at Christmas. What the heck happened?
Halloween decorations up.
I know.
Christmas decorations. People are selling turkeys and, and the most important holiday, deer season.
That is coming.
Vermont's like France during deer season. Everybody's just disappeared.
Pennsylvania's the same way, trust me.
So February, March. I'd like to have it before the next household hazardous waste event, but I don't want to.
Maybe we gotta have February.
February,
Before
sounds
town
about right.
meeting, so.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. So when is town meeting? March 1st or something?
Yeah.
First Monday in March, first Tuesday.
So we want to shoot for the February. Oh, okay, no, we don't do one off day. Because then we have to keep doing it. Like the 9th or the 15th. What do you like? Those are both Wednesdays.
Ninth works for me.
Nice.
Either one. February 9th.
What month are you working in?
February.
February 20.
February? Okay,
February 9th.
all right.
I guess we'll play it by ear in terms of how we'll meet. We can still meet here, but we may be back to Zoom or we may be able to meet in person. Or maybe we want to keep the hybrid meeting going, especially if it's,
If we're in this room, we may as well run live.
yeah, well, especially if it's winter, especially Nancy has to
Crystal Mountain.
put her tractor together and come down the hill with it, so. It'd be better to have people here that are, meeting than worry about whether they can all make it physically. So, as long as there's no reason we can't continue to have hybrid meetings. Is there, Stu, or is that all allowed by state law?
Yeah, as long as you have a physical location where people can come
With one person in the room.
to do hybrid, you're allowed to do partial Zoom.
Okay,
You have to have a physical location. So even if we try to do Zoom, we'd have to have somebody in a physical location
okay,
where people could come to the meeting.
okay. Well, we've been doing that, so, okay.
And perhaps by February, things will be trending in the right direction.
Well, they're definitely trending.
Well, we're moving November 1 to a mandatory vaccine or weekly testing for our employees.
Hmm. And how are you handling your select board meetings? Are they just open or is that how are you?
Our select board meetings are in person, masked at the present time. But I can tell you, the people who watch it on TV complain about the sound because your voices are muffled.
Yes.
So it makes it difficult. And this is difficult actually for me to fully understand everything you folks are saying. So the hybrid meetings are difficult as well.
Yeah, I'll second that. I'm having trouble hearing some of the things you're saying too.
Yeah, it's the world we live in, folks.
Yeah.
Stu, at your Zoom meetings for select board, do you let the public participate over Zoom?
We actually don't do Zoom anymore. We do only in-person meetings.
Oh, okay, good,
And we mask, we set the seats apart.
good.
It's either, if you can't do only Zoom, I think these hybrid meetings are a little bit difficult.
Very difficult.
For sure. Okay,
So next meeting, February 9th,
yep,
4 PM here.
Yep.
Okay? Right.
Same that time, same that chance.
Any
Those old
other,
folks.
any other business for anybody? Motion to adjourn? No.
you seconded.
Perfect.
Put a name.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Michael and Paula. Good job.
Very good job.
Bye, everyone.